What are you saying, ladies and gents? It is your boy BucketHatSam, and we are back again today. And you know what it is? It's a Tuesday evening. I'm in the forest. It's a Sunday, Tuesday evening. That means only one thing. It's Football Rambling Episode 4. And today we are going to talk all things football and answer, as always, your questions. And I have got so many questions to answer. And I'm going to answer 7 questions this week. Well, that's how much I planned. Who knows? Because you know me, I'll start here and then I digress. And then next thing you know, we've been going for half an hour, but let's get straight into it. And one thing I'm going to start off with this week, and I'm pretty happy with myself, to be honest. We're going to talk about the French League. And the thing I called last week, Lille went 6 points clear at the top last week. And I said, the problem is with Lille when they go top, they just panic. It's a very young side, very inexperienced, other than Jose Font, who you may remember, who was at Southampton, absolutely top player in the Portugal national squad. You should watch him out in the Euros. But anyway, I'm digress again. Lille lost this weekend 2-1 against Nimes, who are 18th in the league, which was a huge upset. And Paris Saint-Germain beat 3rd place Lyon 4-2. And Mbappe scored. And the thing is with Mbappe, I don't know why Lyon can't work out. Mbappe scores the same goals against Lyon every year. Long ball, over the top, runs onto it. He did it twice in the game. I don't know how Lyon didn't pick up on it. But anyway, now the top 4 now are separated by 4 points. Lille top, 3 points clear of PSG. Then 3rd and 4th are Monaco and Lyon, who are both on the same amount of points. Monaco in some top form off the back of a huge 4-0 win this weekend gone. And they're going into the international break now with Monaco looking the most informed side out of the lot of them. But PSG will know what they're doing. I still think PSG will win it, but at least for the first time in I don't know how long, there is an actual title race. Top 4 separated by 4 points. It's crazy, and you won't believe it, but guess the first game after the international break is Paris Saint-Germain at home to Lille, first v second. Absolutely huge game, and Paris Saint-Germain have a very better goal difference, like way ahead. So if Paris Saint-Germain win that game, they will go back to top of the league. But in recent weeks, Paris Saint-Germain, as I said last week, Paris Saint-Germain seem to be slipping up, and they've got a huge game coming up after the international break against Bayern Munich, the rerun of the final of the Champions League, and that should be a brilliant game to watch. And I won't talk about that now because we'll do that just before the Champions League starts again. And I think that's enough for the French League. I think you can see it's a good league to watch. All you need to watch it. I know a lot of you keep telling me, "Oh, Sam, it's a Farmers League. I'm not watching it." Watch it. I promise you, you'll be really surprised. Paris Saint-Germain aren't the team they used to be. Or maybe Monaco and other sides have really picked up. And it's good to see Monaco playing well after not so long back. They were one of the top sides in Europe and they won that huge run, but then they lost literally all of their team. A brilliant side that was when you look back at that 11 they had. But anyway, let's get right into the first question. And I've written them all down this week because I thought, do you know what? Usually I read my phone and I look through and I just pick random questions. So this week I thought, do you know what? Let's be fair. Let's have a look through the questions. I haven't prepped any of my answers because I like to just speak off the cuff. And the first question I'm going to be answering this week is from Scotty Dog. Thank you, Scotty Dog. You always seem to answer my questions, and it is the best ground in Germany. And for me, that's an easy question. The best ground in Germany. Hello. And for me, the best ground in Germany is an easy question. Sorry, she was staring at me then. I've got to say hello to people. I always find that really awkward. They just stare at me and I'm like, I'm filming. But anyway, the best ground in Germany. What a brilliant question, Scotty Dog. And I think this is an easy one. I think we all know it. Come on. All of you are speaking now. I can hear you all. Yes, it is. It has to be Dortmund's ground. And I've written it down because I always struggle with the pronunciation of this name. It's not even a tough one to say. It is the Signal Iduna Park. Even that, it doesn't sound right. You know what I'm trying to say. It is the Dortmund ground with the yellow wall. Well, I just can't wait. I'm definitely going to go next year, hopefully after COVID, because I want to see the yellow wall. It's supposed to be absolutely sensational. The atmosphere looks just incredible. And I can't wait. Hopefully after COVID, I'll get there straight away and watch some good football, because they are playing good football. And the best part about them is they're so inconsistent this year. This year, they're just outside the top 4 at the moment, going into the international break. Not the best of form, but it should be a good game to watch, because the side are struggling this year, I'd say, with bringing in through the youth players and mixing them with the experienced players, and they seem to be really struggling with it. But anyway, That's a brilliant question. And my favourite thing actually about the Dortmund ground, I haven't said this yet, is on top of the stadium, all around the side as well, and on top, they've got solar panels. So very eco-friendly club, and then they sell that electricity they generate to the local area and they distribute it out, which is a brilliant thing to do, putting back into the local economy, which is what we love to see. Very good club, very well run, and yeah, they usually do invest very well in the youth. And their new manager from Borussia Mönchengladbach will be coming at the end of the season, and that Borussia Mönchengladbach manager is being replaced by Xabi Alonso. Who would have thought it? What an odd appointment. It's a bit of a risk. We've seen with some players it works when they go into management quite early on in their career. Look at Andre Pirlo. He's struggling. He's really struggling. Inter are running away with it now. There's serious problems for Pirlo, and especially with them falling out of the Champions League. And I know they said they're going to stick with Pirlo, but I still think he's inexperienced. Then we look at Lampard. Didn't work out for him. But then it did work out for Gerrard, so swings and roundabouts, isn't it? You don't know. We'll have to wait and see. Could be a mastermind of an appointment, or it could really not help Xabi Alonso's managerial career starting off badly, but we'll have to wait and see. And so my next question is from Jaden, and Jaden asked me this last week. He commented on the video to talk about my opinions on the Wolves. And the thing is with the Wolves this season, they've got a good side, but my only problem is the over-reliance on Raul Jimenez. And we've seen it this season when he went out with the skull injury. Skull injury, that doesn't sound right. When he went out, he's been out, sorry, still, when he cracked his skull. And I'm glad he's recovered well and he's back in first team training. But without him, they really look poor. And they signed William Jose from Real Sociedad, the Brazilian international. And he's a good player, but he's never been a born goal scorer. He's known for scoring scrappy goals. And my problem is, and I say this a lot of the time with strikers, he doesn't have one attribute that stands out. But anyway, this is not a slander of him. We're going to talk about Wolves in general. And my problem is with the Wolves, they've invested well in youth. But Nuno has the same 11 every week. You can really predict the starting 11, and you could last season. And with them losing Matt Doherty, who a lot of people say, yeah, he's not done very well at Spurs, but he was a huge part to that Wolves side, bombing on, basically playing as a right forward most of the time rather than right wing back at the Wolves last season. And a lot of assists came from him, and I know a lot of people are laughing at him now, but he was an integral part to that Europa League run they had last season. And Diego Jota and Jimenez, so three of their top players, I'm not saying the best players, have all been out, or they've been sold or out with injury. And they've not replaced well. Pedro Neto, brilliant player. Adama Traore blows hot and cold for me. He doesn't do enough defensively for me, but he doesn't need to in the system they play. But it's the system they play for me which is a massive problem. Nuno has only got one plan. He has one formation and one style of play, and if they're losing 4-0, he won't change the system. He'll keep the same system non-stop. He believes in his team. He trusts the system, which I like. It's a good trait to have, but I think it's quite ignorant sometimes. When you're coming up against some other sides where, so with Man City, when, yes, they've had some good results at Man City in the past, but recently they lost 4-1. And sometimes you do need to respect some sides and change your formation slightly or change your style of play, but he doesn't change the style of play. And this season it's not worked out. Moutinho is starting to look quite leggy in the midfield, and you can tell because Neves is having to cover a lot more ground. And I used to love the three in midfield when they played the 3-5-2 system with two up front, Jimenez and Jota, and I loved Dendoncker, Neves and Moutinho because Dendoncker provided the sturdiness at the back. Neves was that, he's got the vision and he was good going forward, whereas Moutinho was the one who just put all the pieces together, but Moutinho doesn't seem to be the player that he was before. And that's my problem. Most managers then drop the player out, but Nuno seems to be playing the same team week in, week out, and that's a problem for me. And I think yes, the Wolves play some nice football sometimes, but this season they've been quite poor, and I'd say it's a pretty average season when you look at the amount they've invested in their squad, and they went on the Europa League run last year. They should really be looking at the top 10 when you look at the amount they've spent on that team. I think it's been quite a poor season from Nuno. I do worry for him a bit because he just seems to be quite ignorant. I think that's the right word. A lot of people may correct me, but you do get where I'm coming from. The fact he's only got one style. I'm sorry, Jaden, if that's not the opinion you wanted, but I used to love the way they play, but this season they just don't seem to have that spark, the energy. I think we've seen it with Liverpool. If you keep playing the same team week in, week out for ages, the players will start to get leggy, and people start to work you out, and it's how you then adapt to bad results. But they don't seem to be adapting or changing. And yeah, I think they have been unlucky with injuries. We can't forget that. But one player I do think's fallen off quite a bit recently is Connor Cody. I loved him a year ago, and I thought he was a brilliant player. But now I don't think he should be anywhere near the England squad. I don't think he's good enough, to be honest. And we've seen him against bigger centre backs. They seem to just turn him quite easily and play off him. We saw it with Rondon back when he was at Newcastle, Lukaku was at Man United, Tammy Abraham. Bigger strikers love to play against Cody. But yeah, hopefully he may pick up his form just before the Euros, but I think he's too far gone now. I think you've got players like Konsu coming through, Godfrey, Michael Keane. I think even Maguire's playing better than him, and I don't really rate Maguire. If you know me well enough, I don't. So yeah, I do feel sorry for Cody. He has fallen off quite a bit, but maybe the system, it may be they need to just try and change, give him a bit more protection. Who knows? But yeah, that's my opinion on the Wolves, Jaden. Hopefully you enjoyed that. And my next question is from Oscar, and he's an Arsenal fan, and he has asked, is Kieran Tierney a future Arsenal captain? And I thought about this for about 2 seconds, and I'm going to answer straight away, yes. I think Kieran Tierney's up there as one of the best left backs in the league. I absolutely love him, and what makes him so much better, doesn't it? You see him in the pre-match warm-up, you can see all their breath, and all the commentators are in woolly gloves, massive hats and huge coats. Kieran Tierney comes out, his Tesco carrier bag, short sleeve top. We might as well be wearing a vest. He just looks hard, doesn't he? And he's a born leader. You've seen clips of him screaming at the team, and he's a leader by example. He works hard. I think he leaves everything on the pitch, and I love him as a player. He's brilliant going forward and defensively. And it's good again to see players who are playing in the Scottish League getting a chance in the Premier League, because not many have been given a chance, and we've seen two main players in recent years come from Celtic, well, specifically Celtic, but I mean in the Scottish League in general, who've absolutely killed it in the Premier League. We've seen Van Dijk come from Celtic to Southampton, he absolutely kill it, and now he's probably the best defender in the world now. Shame he's injured, but again, and then we've seen Billy Gilmour, actually, who was at Rangers until he was 16, I think he was, come to Chelsea, and he's not been really given a chance under Tuchel, but he's again another good player. And then obviously him. So there you go. Tierney has got to be a captain in the future, because you don't see many players in that Arsenal team you think, oh, those are born leaders. Xhaka may be a leader, but I don't think he leads by example. Too many mistakes. He's a bit of a hothead. And then Aubameyang, well, don't get me started on him. I think it was disgusting what he did in the North London derby, where he turned up late. Which you can't have a captain turn up late. You're supposed to lead by example. Because you imagine Harry Kane turn up late, or Roy Keane in the past turn up late. You just don't. It just doesn't happen. I don't think it would ever happen. So for me, Kieran Tierney has got to be a captain in the future. If he carries on the way he is, he could cement himself as an Arsenal great. If he has many, many more years playing it the way he is at the moment, let's just hope. He does seem to have a few problems with injuries quite often. So let's just hope he doesn't get injured again. So there you go, Oscar, if that's the answer you thought. And the next question is from a Phil Foden fan page. I'm not going to say the number, it's like 12485, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not going to tell you the name of that, the rest of it. And they asked me, will Man City win the quadruple? No, I don't think they will. And I may eat my words, and I happily will do. I'd like to see an English side win at the Champions League, but I don't think they will. I think the problem is with Man City, and we've seen in recent weeks, they are absolutely insane going forwards. And my worry for them, and I know we've all said, oh, Ruben Diaz and John Stones, the best defensive partnership. They are playing against other Premier League sides, and I think the Premier League standard has been quite poor this season. We've seen a lot of teams be really poor, and I think it's the first season where you look at the relegation battle, and there's probably 6 teams that really could get relegated, as in the way they're playing and the form they're in. But for me, with Man City, is they play brilliant football going forward, and they don't leave many people at the back. And with Pep Guardiola, he trusts his defenders to play 2-on-2. As we've seen, he leaves John Stones and Diaz, and even then, sometimes though both of them two both bomb on. And the problem is that, yes, they're brilliant defenders, but my worries is if them two both bomb forward, or sorry, actually, if they both stay back and they're on the halfway line, and you come up against Bayern Munich, and a front three of Sane, Lewandowski, or Muller, or Gnabry, or any of the other, Alphonso Davies, bombs forward, all of these players coming up against two defenders, they'd be counted the hell out of. And that's the thing with top Europe sides, they are very, very clinical, especially Bayern Munich. And Dortmund, that's my worry for Man City against Dortmund. They will be countered with Haaland, and Sancho will be countering that Man City defence. And Dortmund will probably leave those two forward at all points, so when they counter, they can counter fast. Because Man City don't like to cover, they trust that they can keep the ball well as a protection for the defence. And we saw against Man United, they get countered, and when they do get countered, they look very, very nervy and easily look like you can get between the lines in the Man City defence, because they play, the two defenders, the two centre-backs play so narrow and so high. So if you can get in behind, putting that ball over the top, you could easily, because Ederson always comes out and he does make a few mistakes every now and then. So I don't think they'll win the quadruple. I think they'll beat Tottenham in the League Cup. I hope Tottenham win, because I do like Tottenham as a club, and I do like Mourinho. I've started watching the All or Nothing series this week, and I'm starting to fall in love with Mourinho. I'm not even a Tottenham fan, but I feel like he's my manager watching it. But I do want Tottenham to win, but I do think Man City will win the league, they'll win the cup, maybe in both cups, but I can't see them win the Champions League. I think their style of play and the players they've got isn't good enough, because when you come up against, as I said, Bayern Munich, your Dortmund, your Paris Saint-Germain, teams like that will eat your style for breakfast. All of them are brilliant counter-attacking sides, so I do worry for Man City in that sense. They've got enough going forward, but the style of play leaves, they're just too leaky in the back. I know obviously they've not conceded, but you must get what I'm saying, that they could easily get countered. And the next question is from Faizo. Hopefully I've got that right. He had number 3 in his name, so I think he's looking for an E. I don't know. We'll say Faizo. And he's asked me, would you prefer to score a beautiful goal in the 80th minute or a perfect assist in the 90th? Oh, what a question. I would probably say I'd prefer to get the perfect assist in the 90th minute. I do love an assist. I love to be the creator. Not that I am, I'm just lazy when it comes to football, but I think it's something about a 90th minute goal. It could be an awful goal, but the 90th minute, just the limbs and everything, it's just so much better than an 80th minute goal. And you get to celebrate with the whole team because you feel like you've provided. And I don't know, just for me, it's got to be the 90th minute. Just the celebrations, and it's a 1-0 scrappy win. That's what you want to see. That's what I miss. The non-league days when someone scores in the last minute. The limbs and the beers in the air, that's what you want to see. The next question is from Higgsy. My boy Higgsy, one of my mates. Hopefully he'll come to some non-league games next season. Who knows, he could be on the vlogs next season. He loves a beer, so probably will be on the vlogs next season in the non-league. And he's asked me who was better, put them in order. Who would I prefer in my team? Scholes, Gerrard or Lampard? And oh, this question is so difficult because all 3 defenders are all completely different. No, sorry, midfielders are all completely different. It's a really difficult one to choose because it depends what you want. Because I've had to think about this. I know Scholes was naturally absolutely insane as a player, as players go. His technical ability and his vision was crazy, but I didn't get to see him in the height of his career. I saw him near the end. And Gerrard's just one of the perfect midfielders, but Lampard, it's insane. His goal stats are absolutely crazy. When you look at him and remember that he was a midfielder, the goal stats, what you want from your striker. So I'd say Lampard for me, number 1, just because he's a goal scorer. And there aren't many goal scorer midfielders, are there, around? And number 2, Gerrard, because his vision, and Scholes. I know he was brilliant technically, but for me, I didn't see him in the height of his career. I only saw him really at the end of his career, so I can't really say much on that. So I'd probably say number 1 Gerrard, number 2 number 1 Lampard for definite, number 2 Gerrard, and number 3 Scholes, just purely because I didn't see him really in the height of his career. So I'm sorry if that offends a lot of Man United fans and other fans, but in my opinion, I haven't seen him in the height of his career, so I didn't really get to see him at the top of his game. Oh, I feel that's controversial. Okay, so yeah, Lampard number 1 for the goals, Gerrard number 2. He's just your perfect midfielder, and then Scholes purely because I only really got to see him nearing the end of his career. Oh my word, I feel like I'm going to get a bit of hate. Hopefully my dad doesn't see this because he'll probably tell me I'm wrong. Higgsy, that was a really horrible question. I'm not liking that. I'm going to get some hate for this. So now on to the final question, if I can open my paper. And this next question, I remember it being like a nice ending question, and this is from Carvalho. Sounds very tropical. Sounds like a very tropical bloke, doesn't it? Carvalho. I think we've got international. Where could Carvalho be from? Maybe Portuguese. Ricardo Carvalho. Oh, Portuguese, I'm going to say. And what he's asked me here is 2 questions in one. And originally the question started off, I'm presuming, as Nuno or Dean Smith. And to be honest, I don't like to pick sides from Midlands because I don't want to come across bias or anything, but both managers very much one style of play, one system, and they don't like to change it. Dean Smith has the same formation, 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 or 4-5-1, depending on whether they have the ball, which transition of play they're in, so it's all the same formation. And Wolves, it's the 3-5-2 or the 3-4-3 again, depending on whether they have the ball, the transition of play. Both managers are very, and I use this earlier, ignorant is the right word, I still think. Both of them don't like to change their system. I'd probably say Nuno I prefer, even though I slagged him off earlier in the video, just purely because Nuno's done so much with the Wolves, taking them on that Europa League run. And he was a manager at Porto, was it? Who knows? It's a difficult question, I don't really want to answer it, but the follow-on question from Carvalho said, would Villa get relegated if they didn't have Grealish? The question is Carvalho a Villa fan, or is he just happy seeing the Villa doing poor without Grealish? Who knows? Carvalho doesn't really sound like a Villa fan, does he? He doesn't sound like he's from Aston or in the middle of Brum, does he? Oh, good old Carvalho, how are you, mate? No, I do think Carvalho's he's foreign, but anyway, let's get to the question. The Villa have got a good squad, and they're still building. And today I saw a quote from Dean Smith last season. He said, "First season in the Premier League, I want to stay up. The second season, I want to build a starting 11, and the third season, I want to build a Premier League squad, and then they can push for Europe. That's the aim." And I do think he kept that. Just about stayed up last season, and basically down to Bournemouth really messing up. And obviously Hawkeye, but we don't talk about that. And this season, I think they've got a starting 11, but it all revolves around Grealish. And we've seen without Grealish in the game on the weekend, and my mind's gone blank, against Tottenham, they didn't have a single shot or shot on target until the 58th minute. That's a relegation side kind of stat. And they controlled the game for the first half an hour, which is what I couldn't get my head around. They don't seem to have that one player other than Grealish who can get between the lines and really mess with defences and create that, have that attacking spark that will get your team a goal. And Grealish can do that on his own. One player I thought could do it was Sanson, or however you say his name, and I'd seen him a lot at Marseille. I did a video on him earlier in the year. I do really like him. I still don't think he's been given the chance to really shine in his natural position. But I don't think Villa would get relegated without Grealish, because I do think they've got a good enough squad. But I do think when they're without Grealish, it's like they're lost. Obviously over time they would get used to it, but they're used to him being the main man. You want players like Bertrand Traoré to really step up, because he was absolutely killing it for Lyon in the Champions League last season. So yeah, I don't think Villa would get relegated. I think that's a bit of an over-exaggeration, but I do think they would be struggling. I think they'd be down at the bottom, but I do think they've got a good enough squad and a good enough defence, because their defence is their best asset for the Villa. They don't concede. I think Martinez he's in the top 5 for most clean sheets across Europe. Because when you look at that defence, and Martinez is an absolutely brilliant keeper. I still think Arsenal did the right thing in getting rid of him, because I do think Leno's better. Because Leno's just better with his feet and overall. But Martinez is a good keeper. Back 4, Matty Cash, he's just coming back from injury. And he's a good player, but he's my only player in that team that I'm still not convinced on. He was a winger initially at Forest, with a lot of people could tell. With the way he plays, he's very, very attacking. And he's very rash with his decisions defensively for me. So I do like him, but I'm still not entirely sure. Who knows? I will probably get proven wrong, so he'll probably eventually get an England call-up when he gets defensively better, because he's brilliant going forward. But having said that, we've got hundreds of right backs. Tyrone Mings has not had a great season. He's had a lot of mistakes this season. I said it in a video earlier on in the year. The problem for me with Tyrone Mings is he got in that England squad, and since then he's decided, I think, maybe Gareth Southgate said you've got to be better on the ball, and now he's trying to play a lot more out with his feet, and he's overcomplicating things. Lots of Cruyff turns situations where you don't want him to. And he's made quite a lot of mistakes. He's lucky he's got Konsa next to him, because Konsa is an absolutely top draw player. Absolute steal at 12 million from Brentford. I think a couple of seasons back. Last season he looked quite weak and quite nervous, but this season he's really stepped up. He must just be on the fringes of the England squad. And left back, Matt Targett, you know what you're going to get with him. Brilliant going forward, good defensively overall. I think he's a 7 out of 10 every week. He's one of those players you can rely on, very consistent. I don't think you can say much more about him. So with that defence, I do think Villa wouldn't go down overall. I know it was a long way of getting around to it, but I can't see the Villa really. It's a good question. I don't think without Grealish they'd get relegated. And if they do sell him in the summer, 100 million, who knows? They'd reinvest it. They'd stay up. I don't think Villa have got anything to worry about. They've just had a blip without Grealish. I think they just over-rely on him, and it's like they're worried and they don't know what to do. And then all the media's talking about how they're worried, and it just becomes psychological then to get over that barrier. And once they get over that barrier, once they start getting some proper wins without Grealish, I think they'll be fine. But he'll be back soon anyway, because I did see he's been training with the first team every now and then. Who knows? Jeez, this hill is steep. It's just long and steep. I sound really out of breath, like I've gone on a run. Jeez, I need to get fitter. But yeah, and now I'm just going to waffle on a bit now, because I've got a bit of time. Really, I'm going to talk mainly about the transfer roundup. And today I have seen some big news involving, it's kind of, usually you'd say it's a transfer triangle, but I don't think it's a triangle. I think it's more like a dodecahedron. 12 sides, if no one knows. There's a lot of players and it's a big puzzle that could form into a huge transfer circle with players going everywhere and here, there and everywhere really. But I don't know what to make of it. So Aguero's contract's up in the summer, as I spoke about last season. And so let's just say Aguero leaves Manchester City in the summer, which he will do. He's out of contract and Man City haven't offered him a contract. They don't want to. I think they think his time is up. I still think it's a bit early to get rid of him, but Pep wants a young, fit striker in, and they've been linked with Danny Ings. And I spoke about it today with a lot of my friends and they all took the mick out of me. But I do think he is good enough, and he scored 22 goals last season. I think it's 34 now in 87 games in the Premier League, which is a good record. And 22 goals last season in a Southampton side, which the half a season they were really struggling. He was the only guy who they could rely on, who really looked like he'd do anything. And I think he put in a massive shift, and imagine him in a Man City side when they're actually creating chances. Because Gabriel Jesus, I still don't trust him as a striker. I still don't think he's good enough. So he could go there, and then if Aguero then leaves, he's then been linked to go to Inter Milan, as the favourites. Then that would mean Lautaro Martinez to Barcelona maybe. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see what all happens with that. But hopefully next week we'll get some more information. I can talk about the whole transfer circle. I'll only just dip my feet into that pool, and we'll save that for another time. But yeah, thanks guys for listening. Send me in some more questions, and hopefully I will see you next week, and we can talk about the internationals, and we can talk about England disappointing us. So yeah, BucketHatSam, over and out. Goodbye.